hope you're well and having the most incredible day as always. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are doing well. In today's video, we are going to be going through my March reading wrap up, and I read 10 books this past month. I feel very proud of the fact I read 10. I definitely felt a little bit of a slump coming on sort of within the middle and the end of the month, and I don't know what really brought that on, to be honest, but I did manage to finish 10 books and I'm so excited to share them with you. I have some absolute gold dust 5-star reads, then I have some kind of not so gold dust 2-star reads. I'm so excited to share them with you. So without further ado, as always, we are going to dive right in. I hope you guys enjoy the video and carry on watching. So the first book we picked up in March was Things We Hide from the Light by Lucy Score. I absolutely loved this book so incredibly much. I read it on my Kindle. It was a 5-star read, and if you guys have read the first one, I'm not going to go into too much detail about what this one was about because I feel like it will spoil it. However, you have Noah and you have Lena, and Noah is the brother of the male character in the first one, and Lena is the male character in the first one's ex and now best friend. So it's kind of a weird crossover situation, but they are absolutely perfect for each other in my opinion. Lena is more of like the grumpy and he is definitely more of the sunshine, but then he kind of turned grumpy. It's all of a bit of a weird situation, but I absolutely just fell in love with this story. I will say that these books are long. They are over 500 pages for a romance, which is definitely long in my opinion. It is a bit much. However, I will also say that Lucy Score just makes you fall in love with the characters. There is nobody in this book that I didn't think was written well or didn't have enough information on. Every single character has a purpose, and I absolutely just fell in love with it. I cannot wait to read book 3. I think book 3 is going to be really good. I've heard mixed reviews, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I have had people get their hopes up on book 3, but to be honest with you, I love book 1 and 2 so much, I think I will just love book 3 anyway. So that is all I'm going to tell you about this book. I really don't want to spoil it. You guys need to go into the series just with an open mind. Go into it blind because it is absolutely phenomenal. The found family in this book, the found family in this series just absolutely amazes me. I love it so much and I wish I could just move there. Like, the town seems like perfection. So yeah, that is the first book I read in March, and yeah, absolutely obsessed with it. The next book I picked up in March, I'm not gonna lie, I think I actually bought this and read this maybe 2 days later, which is very unlike me. Normally I buy a book, keep it on my bookshelf for maybe a year, and then I pick it up, and that is Mr. Hockey by Leah Riley. I picked this up from the works on a whim. Did I love it? Not really. I gave this one a 2-star. I wasn't obsessed with it. This one is Jed and, what is her name? Breezy. Like, I don't like that nickname. I feel like her name was Brianna or something, and they called her Breezy, but like I just wasn't a fan of it. As you can tell by the front cover, it is a sports romance. So Jed used to be a very famous hockey player. Something goes on, not going to tell you what. He doesn't necessarily do it as much. Then you've got Breezy, who is like a bookseller slash like a librarian. I can't really remember what she does, if she works in a shop or whether she works in a library. I think it might be a library, actually, thinking about it. But anyway, she used to be obsessed with him to the point where she had like posters. Basically, it was like me when I was a teenager and I was obsessed with Twilight and like Edward Cullen. And like posters just everywhere. This was her, and then she actually gets to meet him in person, and then things start to kind of flourish, and she's like, oh, I should probably like hide all that stuff because that is really embarrassing, and then he finds out, obviously. Did I love it? No. Again, it was a 2-star read. It wasn't my favorite. It was definitely an easy read, being under 200 pages. It was a nice little like mind cleanse, and there definitely is some spice in this book, but what I will say is that I just didn't really connect with the characters, to be honest with you. I didn't love them together. I feel like more could have gone on in this book, even though it was only 200 pages. So yeah, wasn't obsessed with it. Wouldn't really recommend it, but it was a nice little mind cleanse. So that is the second book I read. The next book I picked up was by Christina Lauren, and that was Roomies. Now, I have quite a few of Christina Lauren's books, but I don't know why I've been putting them off. I have quite a few. I think I bought maybe 6 of them in 1 month once because all the new covers come out, and I sat down with myself and I thought, do you know what, Melody, you need to read those books. So I picked one up in March, and it was Roomies. Did I absolutely love this book? No. I don't know what it was about this book. I gave it a 2-star. Something about it just wasn't giving. Like, I didn't connect the characters at all. So you have Calvin and you have Holland, and I will say I love the name Holland for a girl. That was really nice. But I will say Calvin and Holland together just didn't mesh well with me. I didn't see them being a great couple. I feel like if I could look into their future, they would be divorced by now. So basically, you have Calvin, who is a subway musician, and you have Holland, who works in a theatre. And basically, Holland sees Calvin and she goes past him like every day before work and decides to tell her boss about him for the orchestra. He comes and does an audition. They absolutely love him, but it turns out he doesn't have a visa. So it's marriage of convenience, fake marriage, fake dating, I guess fake marriage to friends to lovers, I guess. I don't know. It just didn't really mesh well. Like, they were cute, but I just didn't see them being like that couple. Does that make sense? I don't know. It just wasn't my absolute favourite. Honestly, I don't really know much more about the book other than what I've just told you because I've kind of forgotten about it. It was cute. It just wasn't like... I wasn't wowed. Speaking of being wowed, the next book is a 5-star read. I fell in love with this book just so incredibly easily, and that is Say You Swear by Megan Brandy. Again, 5 stars. If I could give this 1,000,000 stars, I absolutely would. This book, it gave me every emotion. It gave me happiness. It gave me sadness. I got emotional. I cried my eyes out in this book. I was kicking my feet. I just absolutely loved this book. You have Ariana and you have Noah. Noah is basically the absolute godsend of book boyfriends. He is golden retriever. He is the most caring person within a book I think I've ever read about. I absolutely just love him as a character so much. This book is long, I will say. Like, we're looking at about 500 pages. It is a chunky boy. However, the amount of things that happen in this book just has my mind was just twisting and turning. I just could not keep up with what I was reading, and I absolutely loved it. It's not a typical romance where, you know, they meet, they get together, there's like a third act breakup, and then they're together and it's the end. Like, so much goes on within these 500 pages that I'm just not even going to tell you. But Noah is connected to Ariana's brother in a certain way, so they kind of all know each other, but she didn't really know Noah, and they obviously meet and things start to kind of happen. You also have another character, I think his name was Chase, if I'm correct. Yeah, you have Chase as well, who at the start of the book I despised him. I thought he was absolutely vile, but then towards the end you start to like understand that his heart was in the right place. His mind was just like not computing properly with his heart, if that makes sense. But yeah, absolutely obsessed with this book. It was a 5-star, as I said, and I just can't recommend it enough. I will say, if you like to read trigger warnings, feel free, but I went into this blind and just devoured it. It was so good. Another book by Christina Lauren, we have Twice in a Blue Moon. I have not heard much about this book, and to be honest with you, I'm probably never going to read it again. This one was a 2-star read. You have Tate and you have Sam, and essentially they meet at the start of the book, then there's a 15-year gap, and then they meet again, and I just didn't connect with them as characters. I couldn't see them being together. I feel like their love for each other was far too instant, and then they sort of didn't speak for 15 years, and then all of a sudden everything's absolutely fine. Something obviously happens for them to not speak for that amount of time, and it's all a bit bizarre. Like, it's just all a bit strange, like the way that there were no correspondence between them or anything like that. I thought was so just odd. So I didn't absolutely love this book, to be honest with you. It was a very easy read. Again, I listened to this one on audiobook, so maybe that's why I didn't connect with it so much, but I just didn't love it. Again, 2-star read, same as the other one. Like, I wouldn't say I hated the book. I just don't think I would ever reach for it again, if you know what I mean. The next book I picked up because I thought it was part of a series, and it's like absolutely not part of a series. It is definitely a standalone, and that is Once More with Feeling by Elisa Sussman. I picked this one up because, as I said, I'm trying to get through a bunch of my series, and I thought, well, that's quite a small one. I could get this off my TBR, but it's not actually part of a series, so it was irrelevant anyway. But this one I didn't love and I didn't hate it. So I gave this one a 3-star, and I just felt like, I don't know, it just didn't really like sit in my brain for a long time after I'd read it, and I feel like that just shows I wasn't obsessed with it. Whereas things like Say You Swear, I know I'm going to remember that book forever, and I probably will reread it, whereas this one I don't know if I would. So this one you have Katie Rose, who is actually Kathleen Rosenberg, and Katie Rose is this big famous pop star, and then something happens and she kind of goes under the radar, comes back as Kathleen, and wants to start doing like theatre instead of being kind of on stage in front of people like singing or whatever. And she basically has this like romantic situation in the past, and then in the future she meets someone else. I'm not really explaining this very well. It's a past timeline and a present timeline, and somebody from her past comes back into the present, and it is just good. It is a good book. It was cute. It just wasn't my absolute favourite. So again, it was a 3-star read. I don't really want to give you guys too much details on what happens in each of these books, because I feel like if you you want to go into it blind, you can, but with this one, it was more of a... I'm trying to think how to describe it without spoiling it, but something happens to her when she's a pop star, which means she has to go under the radar, and then somebody from that era comes back, and obviously there's like a romantic situation going on, but it just wasn't my favourite. So it was a 3-star read. It was cute. I'd recommend it if you liked the first book in, I was going to say in this series, it's not a series, but the other book by Alyssa Sussman, Funny You Should Ask, because it's a very similar kind of vibe. But yeah, not my fave, but not my least favourite either. The next book is one which I don't have to hand, so I'm going to insert a photo, and that was Fix Her Up by Tessa Bailey. And to be honest with you, I'm quite shocked. I gave this one a 2-star, which for Tessa Bailey, I thought for me, I didn't expect it, but I just didn't love this one. So this one was in 3rd person, which instantly made me want to throw up. But also, the guy character in this says baby girl like every 5 seconds, and every time he said it, I wanted to throw up. Like, it just didn't sit right with me. It didn't fit the character. Like, I feel like in a mafia romance, things like baby girl and that kind of thing, like, it fits the vocabulary, but this guy, when he said it, just made me want to throw up. It was not a vibe. This book was Brother's Best Friend and Fake Dating, which obviously then turns into something more. I will say as well that the fact that she was a virgin, like, was brought up far too much, and it made me very uncomfortable. Like, it was a big deal. I mean, it is a big deal, but I feel like the fact that she was one, like, made him want her more, and it made me, like, he was just making me uncomfortable. I don't know what it was about this character, but he just did not sit right with me. But yeah, a 2-star read. I'm not going to go into too much about what this book is about, but essentially, Fake Dating, Brother's Best Friend. I feel like he was a hockey player, maybe. I can't really remember. He was definitely some sort of sports guy, and then he stopped playing sports for some reason, and yeah, it just didn't really, I don't know, it wasn't my favourite, but I did read it in March, and yeah, I shan't read it again, let's say that. You okay?
Go never read or anything.
Hey guys!
The next book I read in March was The Upside of Falling by Alex Light. This one is a Wattpad book, which is the best way to describe it. It was definitely giving me Wattpad energy. I gave it a 3-star, and I just didn't absolutely love this one. This one was, let me just check the names of the characters because I literally cannot remember. Brett and Becca. This one is a fake dating romance. So Becca is basically seen as like the nerdy girl at school. She doesn't really have a lot of friends, and she's speaking to her ex-best friend, and her ex-best friend was basically just like giving her the fact that she doesn't have a boyfriend and blah blah blah. Becca's instantly thinking like, I'm just gonna lie and say that I do have a boyfriend. Brett comes around and kind of puts his arm around her, and he is basically the class god, let's say. Like, he is the most popular guy in school, and he pretends to be her boyfriend. Obviously things start to happen and feelings start to arise. There is again a 3rd act breakup as per normal, and then they get back together at the end, spoiler alert. But I did find this like a nice read. I think if I was reading this back when I was like 14, 15, I would have absolutely loved this, and I just really would have enjoyed it because it was very easy to read, it was very quick, it didn't take very long, the writing was absolutely ginormous, so it just made me feel like I was flying through it. But what I will say is that again, it just didn't give me that 5-star feeling. I just didn't feel myself like really thinking about this book much after I finished it. The writing style was good, it was very, again, easy to read. I kind of read it, I don't even know how long it took me, maybe a day, maybe 2 days, I can't remember. But again, it was a good book, it just wasn't my absolute favourite, so hence the 3-star, and that's really all I'm going to say about it. I feel like there's no need for any more information on this one. So yeah, that was the next book I read. So the next book I picked up in March was the 2nd book in the Tessa Bailey series. This is Love Her or Lose Her. I gave this one a 3-star because I feel like this book just... I don't know, like, it was good, it was better than the first one, I will say. I definitely connected to the characters and the story a bit more. This one is second chance romance, so you have 2 characters who, I can't remember their names, I'm not gonna lie. I feel like it was Dom and Bethany, but I might be wrong. It was definitely Dom and something, and I can't remember what the girl's name was, but they basically are married and they sort of lose their connection. Like, they have a physical connection, shall we say, but their actual love for each other is sort of simmering down to nothing. And basically the girl character, I feel like her name is Bethany for some reason, decides to take a break. Dom is absolutely heartbroken, and he realizes like what's been going on and that they need to sort it out, and a lot of other things go on within this story, but it is a second chance romance. They do find themselves again, and it was a really nice read. Obviously I loved it more than the first book. The first book just gave me the ick, and I don't really want to think about the first book anymore, but the second book was cute. It was alright. It was 3-star worthy, and yeah, I don't really know what else to say about this one other than the fact that it was a 3-star. It was second chance romance, and if you like Tessa Bailey's writing, you might like it. I will say it's quite spicy, but other than that, I wasn't kicking my feet. Do you know what I mean? So the last book I read in March was mine and Kelsey's book club pick of the month, and I'm not even going to say what it is. I'm just going to hold it up. I don't know where to start with this book. So this book was an instant 5-star read. I absolutely love this book so much. I'm not going to go into too much detail because I have filmed a reading vlog on this, which will be coming out soon, so keep your eyes out for that one. I understand the hype. Incredible. I feel like for me, fantasy books they have to be really good for me to like them, because I read so much romance that if I read a too complex like fantasy book, it just goes in one ear and out the other. I will say, like, I find it hard to remember certain things. If there's too much world building, if there's too much politics, like I zone off. However, the mix of like fantasy, of like action, of romance in this book, it was the perfect blend, and I absolutely loved it. So a basic kind of brief synopsis: you've got Payden, you've got Kai, and you've got ordinaries, you've got elites. Ordinaries are people that have no powers, elites are people that have powers, and ordinaries shouldn't exist in the kingdom. They all should have been kicked out, because it's basically this whole thing where the plague like came and just made the ordinaries really ill, so they had to go away. So elites should be the only people living in this kingdom, which isn't the case. There's trials, there's romance. As I've said, I'm not going to go into too much detail. All I'm going to tell you is this was a 5-star read. If you like fantasy, or if you want to start to get into fantasy, this was such a wonderful book to do so, because I wasn't confused, I was obsessed. It was perfection. So 5 stars. Those are all of the books I read throughout March. I would love to know down below, have you read any of these books? What did you think? And what was your favourite book that you read in March? Because I would love to know down below. Also, if you're watching this and you haven't yet subscribed, what are you doing? Please make sure you hit the subscribe button. We are on our way to 11,000 subscribers, and I actually feel sick with joy. So if you haven't subscribed, please make sure you do. I love you guys so incredibly much. You have no idea, and I will see you in my next one. Bye guys.